In my previous video, released today on the 17th of May 2026, I asked the question, will phone hacking victim Andy Burnham reinstate Leveson inquiry part 2 and in turn expose the media corruption, police corruption and related corruption if he becomes the Labour Party leader and Prime Minister? You can find out more about that at circusthemind.net and on my socials at Royle Hypnotist. But this video also raises the question of the Hillsborough law. Remember, just like me, my birth name, Alex Smith, although my stage name's Jonathan Royle, of magicalguru.com, Andy Burnham and myself both filed claims against Rupert Murdoch's newsgroup newspapers that were settled towards the end of 2024. We have the same solicitors and barristers. On YouTube, you can find a video. Andy Burnham answers a question about the Lord Leveson inquiry, which is dated the 19th of August 2013, and within that, he talks about the need for Leveson inquiry part 2 and for justice for the victims of the Hillsborough disaster. A BBC article of the 9th of February 2016 headed Leveson inquiry Labour demands part 2 goes ahead quotes Andy Burnham as stating answers were still required over the unhealthy closeness between police and journalists in the past. Basically says that Leveson inquiry part 2 must take place. Indeed, in a Press Gazette article of February the 10th, 2016, headed Labour says Leveson part 2 is non-negotiable, but Mail, quoting government source, reports it will never take place. Well, in that article, Shadow Home Secretary Andrew Burnham, he said holding part 2 of the probe was non-negotiable. The comment came as Burnham and Shadow Culture Secretary Marie Regal staged a conference in Parliament to discuss the obstacle faced by campaigners against justice. Basically, he made it clear part 2 is required. In a 2016, 12th of June 2016, Guardian article, Andy Burnham to call for Hillsborough law for bereaved families. Shadow Home Secretary tables amendment to policing and crime bill to give families same resources as police at inquests. Within the article, Burnham plans to force a vote on the law. He will also advocate several other proposals, including urging the government to go ahead with the second phase of the Leveson inquiry into the media and restricting the ability of police officers to retire rather than facing discipline action. Will he still do this now? A 13th of June 2016 article on the BBC, inquest funding, Hillsborough law needed, Andy Burnham says. In the opening paragraphs of that article, it clearly says the Hillsborough law is required, and he also says he will ask MPs to back stage 2 of the Leveson inquiry, looking at the relationship between police and the press to expose the full level of corruption therein. To be clear, the Hillsborough law has also been known as the Public Office Accountability Bill, to create a legal duty of candour for public officials and authorities with criminal sanctions for non-compliance, and expands legal aid for victims of state-related disasters, things like the Hillsborough disaster. But looking at the House of Commons' own website online, the House of Commons Library, it becomes clear that the Hillsborough law, we jump forward to where we are now in May 2026, and the 27th of April 26, the House of Commons passed a carry-over motion for the Public Office Accountability Bill, the so-called Hillsborough law. It allows it to be picked up in the parliamentary session due to begin in May 2026. Without this motion, the bill would have failed at the end of 24-26 session. So it's still not been brought in yet. So seriously, look at the link above or below this video, because there's other info there relating to Andy Burnham's statement that Leveson inquiry part 2 is required, is needed, and would help to uncover the police and media corruption and cover-ups. And along the way, remember that Sir Brian Leveson said that part 2, the scope of it should be expanded to look at the unethical, unlawful and arguably illegal actions and dealings of the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood. And there's more on my quest to get my fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood related unsafe convictions, because I was wrongfully convicted after a malicious prosecution. Full details of all that are at circusofthemind.net. The big question is, will Andy Burnham live up to his word? And if he's elected as Makerfield MP and then leader of the Labour Party and becomes Prime Minister, will he instigate Leveson Inquiry Part 2? And will he ensure that the Hillsborough law gets passed rapidly and in full for the benefit of the Hillsborough disaster relatives and victims and people in future?